Rahubat, and welcome to 3 questions that you can ask us on OSM Vision, Ask Us Anything. My name is Saken, and if you would like to send your questions in, film yourself asking 3 questions. It's best to film it in good lighting and possibly horizontally, we prefer. And then once you're done and you're happy with your questions, you can just upload them to osmvision.wetransfer.com and we'll get those questions answered for you. All right, let's get on to today's questions.
3 questions. So first question is, what's the relationship between Yashua and Enki and Enlil? Like, have they ever communicated in cahoots with each other? Have they talked? Have they met? Question 2 is...
Okay, yeah, unfortunately there's an echo because it sounds like he's actually listening to me in the background, which is great. But when you're asking your questions, it'll be nice to have as least or less distraction as possible in the background, all right? But yeah, so the question is, is there any connection between Yashua, Enki and Enlil, and have they met? Okay, so when you say connection, you have to remember that these beings that you learn of in religion, so when you're saying Yashua, a lot of people in Christianity will know that person as Jesus. Okay, but these are titles or names that refer to these beings that are what you call students of Melchizedek or students of the master teacher. And when we say students, we're not just talking about students on the planet Earth, because these beings have evolved and some of them are on what you would call spacecrafts, or, you know, because when we talk about crafts are not only the smaller ones that people see. The planet itself is a craft. If you really think about it, the planet Earth is a craft. It's traveling in space, even though the journey is in an orbit that goes around the sun, which takes, you know, we say really every year that's like 365 days or whatever, but it's traveling. And so there are beings that are residing on crafts that are traveling. One of the crafts that people know about is like the one known as Nibiru. But you have to remember also that Nibiru is a fleet. It's like having an airline, like, you know, we say British Airways or Virgin Atlantic, you know, Emirates or whatever. Now, within those fleets, they have many, many different types of aircrafts, you know, like, you know, the Boeing, different types of crafts, small ones, big ones, etc. So it's the same. When you say Nibiru, it's a fleet, and there were many crafts called Nibiru, you know, smaller shams and smaller ships that launched from Nibiru, because some of these crafts are so big, right? As I said, like the size of the Earth or even bigger. So just like we're living our lives, our entire lives, people are born and cross over on this orb or this craft called Earth that is traveling in space. It's the same. They have crafts which they're born, live, and transition in those crafts. And then sometimes these crafts, when you're dealing with space, right? Because remember, space is massive. They have space stations where they can dock. Like, you know, if you travel from one star system to another star system, you're going to have to maybe dock, depending on the size of the craft and so forth. If the craft is too big and it's going to affect, like, for example, the craft Nibiru can't come into the Earth's atmosphere because it's too big. Even just on its approach to the solar system, it starts to have an effect on the planetary bodies in our solar system. So it has to stay away or far away, not to cause any of the calamities that you see happening, such as earthquakes, tornadoes, tsunamis, etc. So what it will do is it will stay further away or far away enough and launch smaller crafts, which they themselves may have other crafts. I mean, if you watch movies like the Avengers, you see they have these types of massive crafts that have crafts inside of them, and so it's nothing for these big crafts to launch other crafts that carry other crafts that carry other smaller crafts. I'm saying all that to say that these beings can meet in certain meetings, right? So the person you're referring to that you're saying Yashua or Jesus or Isa or whatever names people know him at, he's also known galactically, right, as Sanenda, right? And it's the same with our teacher, the master teacher, Parnabab, Yanun. Some will say Yanan or Yananan or Yanun, right? Because different beings from different galaxies pronounce their names slightly different or with different accents. So they do meet up in certain meetings, or like they're called like Galactic Federation meetings, for example. Just like, for example, we will have the United Nations meetings, and you will have representatives from different countries representing their country that will come to those United Nations meetings. So yes, Sanenda, as he's known, would have met or been in a, like there's a recording, if you can find it, I think it's called The Journey, where the being Yanun is talking about him going on to the craft Nibiru and attending a meeting with various intergalactic beings, and Enlil, Enki was there, and even Rama was there, and you know, so yes, it's possible, because once you come outside of people, places and things in terms of our planet, and you start to deal with beings that are ascended masters or beings that have gone on to elevate to the point where they can travel out of here intergalactically or on different realms, then you know it's a different situation is what I'm basically saying. So on Earth, people are known by different names or different stories that have been passed on over time, but when you're dealing with them outside of it, it's just like yourself. You may be known here by your name, like Saken or Tom or Jerry or Peter or whatever, but your inner being, if it's able to travel and elevate to those realms where it's still existing in a different form and interacting with beings in that realm, in that form, you see. So that's to answer that first question for you. All right, let's move on to your second question.
Is there an absolute supreme entity or being, meaning like God? You know, everybody got different questions, but I mean the peak, not just the title God, but I mean the supreme being. So in my opinion it is, because I'm pretty sure I experienced it before, and the best way to put it is whatever it is. It's not a male female, it's it, and is I think it's pure consciousness, just raw pure awareness, and I think it's just the eternal observer. And that's just my opinion, but like I said, I'm asking you, do you know? And my last question.
Okay, before we go to the last question, the second question is there an ultimate being that is, he used the word God and so forth. Human beings seem to be so preoccupied with there being one person or one being that is the ultimate God over everybody and everything. And again, this ties into the people, places and things that you're constrained within your mind to think about. You kind of find it hard to think about things outside the constraints of people, places and things, right? And this is done because in this world that we live in, we've been taught not to really cooperate and work together in union as one. So people always think about someone being over control and having hierarchies and so forth, which is true to a certain extent, because if you're the most knowledgeable or the best at something, then you just get that respect or that reverence, like, oh, you're the fastest runner, or you're the best basketball player, or you're the most intellectually advanced person. So here we glorify, and because someone else has been able to tap into their potential to a level so high that others look at them like they're so different. And if you're the best singer, the best musician, the one that is most popular. However, everyone has the potential to be able to do that. And then what happens is people turn these types of people into celebrities, into idols, into messiahs, into gods. And those people themselves would just tell you, like, you're like me, we're the same, okay? I may be better than you at something that I've put a lot of effort and energy and work to. Or maybe it could be by inheritance, like some people naturally inherit the gifts through DNA to be very proficient or good at something, which might take somebody else much more effort to reach their standard. So I'm saying that to say that the title that you get, the Most High, even in the religious books, the Bible, is actually talking about someone, right? Most of the names you're looking at or using in religion are referring to a person. Like Anu is who's being referred to as the Most High. And Anu is spelled in many different ways. So because the Bible comes from the Sumerian text, the words that are being translated, they may be translated into Greek or into Hebrew because you're reading the books in those languages, like Anu spelled A-N-O. Google it in the Bible, you know. So that's a Greek version. So the O is part of the vowels, and that's A-E-I-O-U. So mainly Anu is spelled in the Sumerian text as A-N-U, not A-N-O. And Anu is the most high of the Sumerian doctrine, and his sons are Enlil and Enki and so forth. And so what I'm basically saying is that depending where you are or what you're doing, you will have a title. Even if you were working in a company, there's going to be like the head of marketing, the head of technology, the head of, research or whatever. So these beings also have titles for who they are. But when you start to get to a point where, okay, so for example, we would say Melchizedek or Yanun or Michael, he's the highest in terms of the being that has the most knowledge. But he himself is a part of a circle of beings that work together. And it's not about the titles, it's about, okay, we need to maintain order in the universe. And we need this person to basically do that, this person to go and teach, that person to maintain and make sure that, wherever there's disagreeableness or evil or whatever, we go and we take care of it. So I'm saying that to say that there isn't one person, just one person, because when you get to a certain level, it's not about you being the one. It's about you working together and being a part of. This is why in our affirmations we say, I'm a part of the all, and the all is a part of me, meaning that you do not separate yourself from this energy. And when you go as far as you can in terms of your energetic being, you become an ethereal or pure energy being that merges with other energy beings, so that you start to have councils of beings. Because even when you look at what I said previously about the United Nations, that's not saying one country, even though we do know like some people will exert themselves as being more powerful by like for example, if you look at the United Nations, people say America seems to flex its muscles around a bit more than everyone else because of whether they give more money or donations or whatever. So, but really it's supposed to be a round table of different nations, and they're all equal and they come to a consensus in decision making for the benefit of the planet, when you have two sovereign nations having conflicts or whatever. So when you go above, it's the same thing. When you're starting to deal with galaxies, you have beings representing different galaxies that come together in their world, in their star system, in their, jurisdiction. They may have their leader, like here you'll have the prime minister or the president or whoever that governs that nation. So it's the same. But ultimately, you are working your way to become a supreme being or a pure energy being known as an etheric being. All right. So on the earth right now, the most high, you have to say the most high of what? As far as intellectual and knowledge goes, it's Partner Babyanun. Hands down, no one can contend that. So who's the best runner? Who's the best basketball player? Who's the best technologist? Who's the best politician? You know, you can keep going with all the titles and there will be one person. But collectively, you know, there will be others as well from different nations that will be on the same level. All right, so let's go on to the last question.
Is could three-eyed Atlas be New Jerusalem? Because I am under the impression that New Jerusalem is a ship.
All right, so the third question is Three-Eyed Atlas New Jerusalem? Again, these terms like Jerusalem are biblical terms and come from the Bible, right? So if you read the book of Revelations in the Bible, it talks about New Jerusalem coming down. And the master teacher, Partner Babyanun, has broken this down many times, years and years and years ago. And when you're saying New Jerusalem, what other Jerusalem do you know? So we're really talking about, and it says it's referred to as the city of peace, okay? And that's the crystal city that was spoken about in that book about New Jerusalem coming down. But it also said that you will build heaven on earth. And that was where Tamaray was. That was us building heaven on earth. Somewhere where, you know, people were calling it Zion or Mount Zion or the city of peace, where the Lamb will dwell amongst those who were inside of the tabernacle. Hence we were known as what? The Holy Tabernacle Ministries. And it was about those dressed or gowned in white, as we were as the Nubian Islamic Hebrews. And we still are, right? Any of the terms we've ever had were not based on a religion. It was based on who we are. And with those titles still apply to us. So Holy Tabernacle Ministries means what? Holy is pure. Those pure beings that are within an enclosure known as a tabernacle who administer the truth or administer the medicine that was required to heal. The same, Nubian Islamic Hebrews. What are we? Nubian, as in we're the original Nubians, going back to the word Nub, or those of the Mafkozet, or that bloodline that has that Nub or that gold as golden children, right? Islamic, because if you really break down the word Islam for what it really is, yeah, it's salam, right? Salam means peace. So we're dealing with those of peace, because when you put the prefix mu in front, you're saying musalam, right? Muslim, those of the ones of peace. Yeah? So salam is peace. So when you say Islam, you're saying those of peace. Yeah? Nubian, Islamic, Hebrew. Hebrew, why? Because what does the word Hebrew mean? In the term of what we used it was those beings to cross over, right? Crossing over from what? The east to the west, because it talks about you being in the west for 400 years, not 430, 400 years, enslaved, etc. And then you will come away from that, not referring to the Israelites, which was 430 years. We're talking about the slave trade from the 1600s, which then took you up to the year 2000. And after that 400 years, at the year 2000, the end of the devil's rule. And this was the new sun cycle. So again, we are those beings, Nubian Islamic Hebrews, that crossed over, and we were the ones that were teaching the true way of peace, the true way as ones of peace, you see. So I'm saying that all the titles are still valid to us till this day. And but not in the way that when it's been desecrated. Because when you say the Holy Bible today, that book is not holy. It's not the pure pages or the pure translation. It's holy in the sense of it's got a lot of holes in it because you can pick it apart, and it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. So yes, Apophis, three-eye atlas, which is referred to as Apophis, is referred to as a meteorite, is referred to by many names that people are guessing, but the one who really knows what it is. But it's not. No, it's not the New Jerusalem. The New Jerusalem was really talking about the crystal city and was talking about our city as in Tamaray, Egypt of the West, where the Lamb resided and was teaching truth, and people were coming to be transformed into gods and goddesses or supreme beings that we're supposed to be. All right, so thanks again for your 3 questions. Always happy to do our best, but ultimately it's the master teacher that teaches us to teach you. So you have to seek out the scrolls from the master teacher, Panda Babyanun, known to many as Dr. Malachi Z.K. York. So yes, film yourself asking your 3 questions and then submit those questions or the videos to osmvision.wetransfer.com and we will get those questions answered for you. And don't forget, tune into the lives on Tuesdays, right? GMT, our time, UK time, that's at 7 p.m. All right? So until next time, Wadu for now.